The smell of brewed coffee filled the small apartment on a quiet Saturday morning in Austin, Texas. The sunlight poured through the living room windows, scattering gold across a sea of cat toys, scratching posts, and 5 lazy rag dolls who had made the couch their kingdom. Each cat had its spot, its routine, and its particular way of showing affection. To anyone walking in, it was obvious whose home this was, and it wasn't the boyfriend's. Samantha had always been upfront about her love for cats. When she met Ryan a little over 3 years ago, she was very clear from the start. On their third date, sitting on the patio of a small cafe, she told him she had one ragdoll named Luna and was expecting a new kitten the following week. She told him it wasn't just a phase. It was her dream to have 5 ragdolls, 5 little fluffy companions that would grow old with her, filling her home with warmth and quiet affection. Ryan had smiled back then, saying, "I've always loved cats. They're so calm and elegant. I think that's awesome." And that was that. Samantha believed she'd found someone who understood her kind of peace, the kind that came with a soft purr and gentle headbutt at the end of a long day. Now, 3 years later, she was there. 5 ragdolls: Luna, Jasper, Willow, Miso, and tiny Clementine. Her dream was alive. The house purred. But Ryan had changed. It started small, comments here and there about how the cats always like you more, or they never sit with me. Samantha thought it was a joke until he started to sound genuinely frustrated. Then one night, after dinner, while folding laundry together, he said, "I've been thinking about getting a dog." The words hung in the air like a sudden storm. Samantha paused. "A dog?" "Yeah," Ryan said, almost too casually. "I've always wanted one, something small, maybe a French bulldog." She felt a knot in her stomach. "You know how I feel about dogs, Rye. They're great, but they're just not for me. Too much maintenance, too loud, too much for your cat palace." He cut in, half smiling but not joking. She frowned. "That's not fair. You knew about my cats before we moved in together." "I know," he said, throwing a towel over the couch, "but I also said I love dogs too. It's not like I changed. I just want something that loves me. These cats don't even care when I walk in. They only care about you." That last part stung. It wasn't her fault that the cats bonded more with her. She fed them, cleaned their litter boxes, played with them before bed, and spent time making their space feel like home. Ryan worked 12-hour shifts at the auto plant, leaving before sunrise and coming home exhausted. The cats barely saw him awake. Still, he wasn't letting the topic go. Over the next few weeks, he kept bringing up the dog. Pictures of French bulldogs started showing up on his phone screen when they were supposed to be watching TV. He even stopped by a pet store once just to look. Samantha couldn't help but feel that something deeper was going on, that this wasn't really about a dog. One Sunday, as she scooped the litter boxes in the laundry room, Ryan walked in, arms crossed. "I've made up my mind. I'm getting the dog." She turned, shocked. "What?" "I'm getting one. You can't control every animal in this house. It's my home too." She dropped the scoop, cat litter spilling onto the floor. "You work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Who is going to take care of it? You can't expect a dog to hold it all day." "I'll use puppy pads," he said quickly. "Puppy pads? For its whole life?" she asked, her voice rising. "That's not normal, Ryan. Dogs need to go outside. They need walks and stimulation. You can't just leave it inside to pee on pads." He sighed in frustration. "So what? It's okay for your cats to poop in boxes, but not for my dog to use a pad? That's hypocritical, Sam." "That's not the same thing," she snapped. "Cats are indoor animals. That's their nature. Dogs aren't supposed to live that way." He rolled his eyes and stormed out of the room, muttering under his breath. That night, Samantha couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, listening to the soft purring of Luna beside her and the hum of Vine's breathing from the other side of the mattress. She kept replaying his words, "Something that loves me." It wasn't just about a dog. He felt unloved, unchosen. Maybe the cats were a symbol of that. Her independence, her control of the home, her way of setting boundaries. But she also knew she wasn't wrong.
A dog wasn't a toy. It wasn't a patch for emotional neglect. Still, she didn't want to lose him over this. The next morning, she made coffee and tried to start a calm conversation. "Ryan, I understand why you want a dog. I really do. But I don't think now is the right time. We both work long hours. It wouldn't be fair to the dog. And to be honest, I don't think I can handle that kind of stress." He didn't look up from his mug. "So it's just your way or nothing." "It's not like that." "It is, Sam," he said, voice low but sharp. "You've decided every single thing about this house. The cats, the furniture, even the food we buy because of your cat's allergies. I feel like a guest here, not a partner." That cut deep. Samantha didn't answer. She just sat there staring into her coffee as the morning light creeped across the kitchen counter. For the first time, she realized that maybe it wasn't about cats or dogs. Maybe it was about belonging, who belonged in the home, who got to make decisions, and who got to feel loved. But she also knew this. She wasn't going to bend on something that made her uncomfortable. Not again. Not this time. Ryan left for work without saying goodbye, and when the door closed behind him, Luna jumped onto the table, curling beside her cup, as if to remind her of what she had already built, a quiet life filled with love that didn't need conditions or compromises. But deep down, she knew the fight wasn't over, because some arguments, no matter how small they seem, have a way of shaking the entire house.
2 weeks passed without another word about the dog, and Samantha thought maybe, just maybe, Ryan had let it go. Things felt normal again. They went grocery shopping, watched movies on the weekends, and even went out to dinner with friends. The air between them was lighter. Still, something about his quietness made her uneasy. Then, on a Thursday evening in late May, she came home to the sound of barking. At first, she thought it was coming from the neighbors, but when she opened the front door, her heart dropped. Sitting right in the middle of the living room, surrounded by 5 very alarmed ragdolls, was a small, squishy-faced French bulldog puppy, yipping at the top of its lungs. Ryan stood nearby, grinning like a kid. "Surprise," he said. "Meet Duke." Samantha froze. She blinked, trying to process what she was seeing. The chaos, the smell of puppy pads already laid out on the hardwood, the terrified cats scattered in every direction. "Ryan," she said slowly, "what did you do?" "I got the dog," he said, as if that explained everything. "I thought maybe you'd come around once you saw him." She stared at the little bulldog, who was now chewing on the corner of the couch. Her couch. "You did this without talking to me?" "I did talk to you. You just didn't listen." "That's not talking," she said sharply. "That's you making a decision by yourself after I told you how I felt. This isn't fair, Ryan." "It's not fair to me either," he shot back. "You've had everything your way since day one. The cats, the house, the rules. I just wanted something for me." Luna crept out from under the table, tail puffed like a feather duster, hissing softly at the puppy. The dog barked and charged toward her, and Samantha instinctively scooped Luna into her arms. "See?" she said, voice trembling. "This is exactly why I didn't want this. They're terrified." Ryan sighed. "They'll adjust." But Samantha knew her cats. They wouldn't. Ragdolls were gentle creatures, sensitive, quiet, easily stressed. And this loud, hyper puppy was the opposite of their world. The next few days were chaos. Duke barked constantly. He chewed shoes, furniture legs, and even managed to tear open a bag of cat food, scattering kibbles across the floor. The cats stopped coming out during the day, hiding in the bedroom or on top of the refrigerator. Samantha could barely get them to eat. Ryan, meanwhile, was gone 12 hours a day. The responsibility fell entirely on her. She fed Duke, walked him before work, cleaned up his accidents, and tried to stop him from terrorizing her cats. Every evening, when Ryan came home exhausted, he'd play with the dog for 10 minutes, then crash on the couch. By the end of the week, Samantha felt like she was babysitting someone else's toddler. On Sunday morning, she sat at the kitchen table with a cold cup of coffee, her eyes puffy from lack of sleep.
Duke was barking at his reflection in the oven door. When Ryan stumbled in, she didn't even look up. "We need to talk." He groaned, rubbing his temples. "Can this wait until I've had coffee?" "No, it can't," she said firmly. "This isn't working, Ryan. The cats are miserable. I'm miserable. You're barely home. Duke deserves someone who can actually take care of him." He set down his mug and glared at her. "You're unbelievable. I finally get something for me, and now you want to take it away? You didn't get something for you. You dumped a dog on me. You made a huge decision about our home without me." Ryan's voice rose. "Because you never say yes to anything I want. You don't compromise, Sam. You've built this whole life around your cats, and I'm just supposed to fit in where I can." Tears burned in her eyes. "That's not true." "It is," he said, quieter now but still sharp. "You care more about them than you do about me." The words hit her like a slap. She didn't know what to say because part of her feared he was right, at least from his perspective. The cats had been her comfort through every heartbreak, every lonely night. They were her world long before Ryan entered it. But what he didn't see was how much she had given up for him. The freedom, the quiet, the routine. She'd let someone into her carefully built life, and now it was crumbling because he wanted to feel loved differently. That night, she slept on the couch. Duke cried in his crate until morning. By Monday, Samantha had made up her mind. She called a local pet rescue and asked if they could help rehome Duke. They said they could, and she felt both guilt and relief flood through her chest. When Ryan came home that evening, she met him at the door. "I found a family for Duke," she said softly. "They have a big yard, 2 kids, and someone home all day. It's what's best for him." His face went red. "You had no right?" "I had every right," she interrupted, her voice breaking but steady. "Because you left me to handle everything. Because you made me the bad guy in my own home." He stared at her, breathing heavily, fists clenched. Then, without another word, he walked past her, grabbed his jacket, and slammed the door. Duke barked from the kitchen, startled by the noise. Samantha sank to the floor, hugging Luna as tears streamed down her face. She didn't know if Ryan would come back, but she knew she couldn't keep living this way, trapped between love and resentment, control and compromise. Outside, the evening sun dipped low, casting long golden shadows across the living room. The same light that once made this place feel safe, now it just felt heavy. But somewhere deep down, she knew this wasn't the end of their story. Because love, when tested, doesn't just break. It bends, reshapes, and sometimes, if both hearts are willing, finds a new balance. And if not, then maybe some homes are meant to stay quiet. Maybe peace isn't something you share. It's something you protect.
The house felt eerily still after Ryan left. No heavy footsteps on the stairs, no tired laughter after long shifts, no half-empty coffee mug on the counter, just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and the occasional soft meow from the bedroom where the cats slowly began reclaiming their space. Samantha tried to convince herself that peace was what she wanted. For days, she woke up early, fed the cats, made breakfast, and sat by the window with her coffee. It should have felt calm. It should have felt like freedom. But instead, there was this ache, like an unfinished sentence that hung in the air. She missed him. Not the arguments, not the tension, but the small things. The way he'd hum while brushing his teeth, or how he'd whisper goodnight half asleep. The warmth of someone being there. Duke had been rehomed 2 days after Ryan left. The family that adopted him sent pictures of the little Frenchie playing with their kids in a backyard full of sunshine. Seeing those photos made Samantha cry harder than she expected, not because she missed the dog, but because it felt like the last thread connecting her and Ryan had been cut. By the second week, she finally texted him. "Hey, Duke's doing great. The family loves him. Just wanted you to know." The message showed read, but got no reply. The silence hurt more than any argument ever did.
That weekend, Samantha's best friend, Maya, came over with pizza and a bottle of wine. They sat on the couch, surrounded by cats, the smell of pepperoni filling the air. Maya gave her a long look. "You're still hoping he'll come back, aren't you?" Samantha hesitated. "I don't know. Maybe. We've been through worse." "Have you, though?" Maya said softly. "Because this time it wasn't about work or distance. It was about values, about respect. You told him your boundary and he stepped over it like it didn't matter." Samantha bit her lip, staring at her glass. I wanted him to love me for who I am, cats and all, not try to change everything I've built." "Then maybe he wasn't the one," Maya said gently. "Or maybe he just needs time to see that." That night, after Maya left, Samantha walked through the quiet house. Luna was curled on the couch, Jasper stretched out near the heater. Everything looked so peaceful, yet her heart felt restless. She opened her laptop and began typing. It started as a letter, something she never intended to send. "Ryan, you once told me that love should feel like coming home, but somewhere along the way, our home became a battlefield. I tried to meet you halfway, but I couldn't keep sacrificing my peace just to make things easier. I didn't want to control you, I just wanted to be understood. I hope one day you find what you're looking for, something that loves you without needing you to change. Maybe I'm not that something. Maybe I am. But for now, I need to remember who I was before we forgot how to listen to each other." When she finished, she saved it as unsent letter and closed her laptop. A week passed, then 2. And just when she started to believe he was gone for good, Ryan showed up on a rainy Tuesday evening. Samantha was cleaning the litter boxes when she heard the knock. At first, she thought it was a delivery, but when she opened the door, there he was, soaked, holding an umbrella, his eyes tired but soft. "Hey," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "Ryan." He looked past her, at the cats lounging in the living room. "They seem happier." "They are," she said. "So am I some days." He nodded, his shoulders sagging. "I deserved that." She didn't answer. She just stepped aside and let him in. They sat at the kitchen table for what felt like hours, talking, not arguing this time, just talking about how things had spiraled, about the dog, about the feeling of not being heard. Ryan admitted he'd been selfish. "I thought getting the dog would fix something in me, like it'd fill the space where I felt left out. But all I did was break what we already had." Samantha looked at him, really looked at him. He wasn't the same man who'd stormed out. There was a gentleness now, a humility she hadn't seen before. "I didn't want to make you feel left out, but I also couldn't keep sacrificing what mattered to me." He nodded slowly. "I get that now." Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, and the rain beat against the windows. It was the same stormy sound that used to lull them to sleep on quiet nights. Then Ryan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a folded paper. "I wrote something. I didn't know if I should send it, but I figured I owed you honesty." Samantha hesitated before opening it. It was a letter, handwritten. "Sam, I'm sorry. For the dog, for not listening, for treating your home like a compromise instead of a shared space. You built something beautiful here, and I walked all over it because I wanted to feel like I belonged. But I realize now, I already did. I just didn't see it. If you can forgive me, I want to start over. No dogs, no conditions, just us." When she finished reading, she didn't speak right away. Her heart was torn between relief and hesitation. Could things really go back to the way they were, or had they changed too much? Ryan looked at her with quiet sincerity. "I'm not asking for an answer tonight. I just needed you to know I'm sorry." He stood up, grabbed his umbrella, and walked toward the door. "Ryan," she said, her voice barely a whisper. He turned. Do you want to come back in for coffee? He smiled faintly. Yeah, I'd like that. As he stepped back inside, the cats watched him from a cautious distance. Luna tilted her head, as if studying him. Then, surprisingly, she hopped down from the counter and rubbed against his leg. Ryan laughed softly. Guess I'm forgiven. Samantha smiled through tears. Guess so. That night, as rain drummed softly on the roof, they sat on the couch together in comfortable silence. It wasn't a promise of forever, but it was something just as powerful. A second chance, quieter, slower, built on understanding instead of compromise. And in that small moment, surrounded by the soft hum of contentment, Samantha realized that maybe love doesn't need to be loud or perfect. Sometimes it just needs to listen. The next morning, sunlight crept through the blinds, painting golden lines across the living room floor. The cats stretched lazily on the rug, their tails flicking in slow contentment. Ryan had fallen asleep on the couch, still in his work jacket, his hand resting near Luna's soft fur. Samantha stood quietly in the doorway, watching him. For a long time, she didn't move. She just breathed. There was something different in the air. Not the tension that used to hang like storm clouds between them, but a calm uncertainty. When Ryan stirred awake, he blinked groggily and smiled, his voice rough with sleep. You're staring at me. I was thinking, she said, her tone soft but careful, about how we got here. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. Samantha poured 2 mugs of coffee and joined him at the table. The silence between them wasn't heavy anymore. It was thoughtful, the kind that comes when words finally have meaning again. I don't want to fight about animals or space or anything like that again, Ryan said quietly. I realized I was trying to build something that didn't fit. I wanted a kind of love that filled the holes I hadn't fixed in myself. Samantha nodded, stirring her coffee. And I was so busy protecting what I built that I didn't notice how lonely you were. They both fell silent for a moment. Do you think we can fix it? Ryan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Samantha looked around the room. The plants she'd nurtured, the art she'd hung, the cats who had seen her through heartbreak, laughter, and everything in between. I think we can rebuild something new, she said finally. But it can't be what it was before. We have to start from honesty. Ryan exhaled slowly, relief flickering across his face. Then let's start there. Over the next few weeks, things changed. Not overnight, not dramatically, but quietly. Ryan moved back in, but they set new boundaries. He helped with chores, learned how to care for the cats properly, and took time off work when he could. He began to see how deeply Samantha's home reflected who she was. Peaceful, consistent, full of love that didn't need loud declarations to feel real. One Saturday, they went to the animal shelter together. Ryan wanted to volunteer, walking dogs and cleaning cages. Samantha tagged along, half out of curiosity, half out of wanting to see how serious he was. She watched him crouch beside a trembling terrier, whispering softly until the dog wagged his tail. There was a gentleness in him she hadn't seen before, one that didn't demand love, but offered it. On the drive home, he smiled. I think I found my way to love animals again, without needing to own them. Samantha smiled back. You found your way to listen. That night, they sat on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, watching the city lights of Seattle blink in the distance. The sky was a deep violet, the kind that hinted at rain, but held back just enough to let the stars breathe. Ryan turned to her, eyes soft. You know, when I first met you, I thought I could change your mind about dogs. She laughed quietly. And now? Now, I think the universe was trying to change me instead. Samantha leaned her head on his shoulder. Maybe it changed us both. They stayed like that in easy silence. The night air cool against their skin. The world felt calm again.
Not perfect, not predictable, but real. Weeks turned into months. They kept volunteering, they started cooking dinner together. The cats adored Ryan now, following him around the apartment like little furry shadows. Sometimes Samantha would catch him talking softly to them about his day, and she'd smile to herself, knowing how far they'd come. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan handed her a small notebook. "What's this?" she asked. "It's something I've been writing. Things I've learned about loving you." Samantha flipped through the pages. Each entry was simple, handwritten, and full of quiet truth. Love doesn't mean owning what you want. It means caring for what already exists. Sometimes compromise isn't about changing someone. It's about understanding why they are who they are. A home isn't built by walls or animals. It's built by trust, by compassion. By the time she reached the last page, her eyes were wet. She looked up at him and smiled. "You know what I think?" "What?" "I think you finally understand why I wanted 5 cats." Ryan grinned. "Because they remind you that love takes patience?" "Because they remind me that peace doesn't have to be lonely." He reached out and took her hand. "Then I'll protect that peace with you." And for once, she believed him. As night settled over the city, the cats curled at their feet, the scent of fresh rain drifting through the window, Samantha realized something simple but profound. Love doesn't survive by demanding to be understood. It survives by choosing to understand. No loud promises, no grand gestures, just 2 people learning how to be gentle again. And that, she thought, was enough.